Hi everyone, and welcome to our Google Hangout. This
Good
is
morning.
Barry, and I'm Tanya, and today we're talking about stepping out of the shadow and into the spotlight. And this is really about how to claim and own and improve your self-esteem. I don't know how to quite frame that, but it's really about to move from the shadow, from behind the scenes and into the spotlight. All is about your self-esteem. And so that's what we are here to share with you. And so before we start, we'd love to introduce ourselves to you. I'm Tanya Paluso, the CEO of Tribal Truth. And how I met Barry here is about a year ago, actually exactly a year ago in June. Um, I came to him because I saw that I was at this place where I felt like something was missing. And we have another Google Hangout that we did about that missing piece. And so I highly recommend that you go and find that. You can just look up the missing piece in YouTube, find that video, that interview where we talked about how I just felt like something was missing. And so I came to him and wanted to discover what that was. Like I had done all this work on myself, but there was just something that was still missing for me. And that was when I discovered Barry's process, what we call releasing the past. And that's when I really got to discover the truth of who I am and let go of so much of the illusion and so much of what was holding me back from my greatest potential. And to just step into full alignment and flow, everything just, I think that's the biggest thing is I went from like work really hard to things can now come naturally and easily for me, and that's a real nice change of pace. And so I'm just really fortunate to be sitting here with Barry and to be now co-leading with him. We're going to be co-leading in what we call the School for the New Generation Leader. And what that is taking leaders through the process, the releasing the past process, to just become so clear and so congruent and to really walk the walk and be the real deal. And so actually what we're going to be doing is taking that curriculum, taking that work down to Peru. And so at the end of this call, we'll share with you that opportunity if that's like, ooh, you're excited about the possibility of coming to Peru, just the possibility of working with us. It's going to be quite an extraordinary trip. So, and really my story is that I started Tribal Truth 4 years ago and wrote a book about my experience called The Open Your Heart, How to Be a New Generation Feminine Leader, which came out in March of this year, 2014, became an Amazon bestseller. And so I'm just helping women and men too step into their leadership and empowering people's leadership. And I create sistership circles with Tribal Truth as well. So I'm going to have Barry tell you a little bit about his background and where he came from, and then we're going to dive into stepping into the spotlight.
Hi, everybody. Good morning. Thanks, Tanya. My background is really interesting in that I was a dropout. That's pretty much the start of my background. That sounds funny. I was a highly successful individual, a college degree, a corporate job, a relatively new marriage, and everything that you were supposed to have, in that time period that I grew up in. Those were the landmarks, and I got all those landmarks. I was a college athlete and lettered in sports and all that kind of stuff, and ran for student president and da-da-da-da-da on the campus. So, it seemed like life was going pretty well, and it wasn't. It was like that idea that we're talking about in this, even though I was thinking that I was in a spotlight, the light wasn't very bright at all. It wasn't very, very bright at all. I wasn't happy. I wasn't fulfilled. All of the success formulas really had an empty quality to them. And I had a call one day from a neighbor that had gone to New York. And he came back and he brought a group of people with him, and he said, "Barry, you're going to love this." I graduated in philosophy after starting in in engineering. I really, I was lost as a high school graduate. So anyway, I I said, sure, I trusted the guy. I knew the guy was great. And I said, sure, I'd love it. And he told me all about all the different spiritual things that they do. That was this combination, sort of buffet, like Americanized uh, combination of traditions. And I went there, and pretty much I said, that's it. Um, my experience on just that one night was so clear and connected, and finding that place inside that was what was missing for me, and I just dropped out and spent about 5 years, and then um, got connected to body-mind approaches through that, and just did them while I was so to speak, dropped out, and people really liked working with me, and even asked me to teach them what I had learned, and one thing led to another, and so I had a chance to start teaching, and I opened up body-mind holistic training vocational schools, and had a number of those, and learned all these different things. And then the one thing that we're doing, which I call releasing the past, was another one of those things where it was the same thing. Somebody gave me a call. I didn't plan any of this. My journey's been sort of unfolding, but they said, Barry, have you heard about this training? And because we think, I think you'd really, really want to do this. And I said, well, tell me a little bit about it. And they said, well, this is the one where if you've done all the other stuff and you just hadn't found what you wanted, this was the one that does it. This is the one that like finishes it all, and gets you where you really haven't gotten to yet. So I said, okay, sign me up. That was enough, because I had done thousands of hours of work at this point, years. I mean, dropping out and hours a day. I was a real spiritual dropout. And Tai Chi and yoga and meditations and body work and But still didn't quite do it. And so I took this program, and it was like, it did. It did exactly what it said it did. It went back into my childhood, showed me my childhood learning based on childhood developmental understanding and psychology, showed me the learning that I had received, gave me tools to be able to release that at that deep core childhood learned place inside the whole body mind, not just the mind. And wow, it was just phenomenal. It worked. It just really worked. And because other people had wanted me to help them with things that I learned, I was so impressed by this, I asked my facilitators if they would train me, and they did. And then basically the story started again, and I was on another path of supporting people with this kind of childhood clearing. I call it releasing the past. And that was 1981. I had my first client, been doing it ever since, and it's so rewarding and fulfilling to see the ability to go to that depth and the ability to really change things, not just in the logical mind, but deep in the core belief system called the subconscious. So that's how Tanya and I met, and she sort of had the same experience that I did. It was like, whoa, this is pretty awesome, and I want to do it. And she told me, and I said, wow, that's sort of cool, because I was thinking, you would be great doing this, and all your connections, and the people you know, and what a gift it would be. And she said, yes, I've been waiting. It's like, here we go.
Here we go.
Here we go. So anyway, today we're going to talk about self-esteem. And before we get there, you have something to say about that.
Well, I wanted to say that, so we did the first, it's the first official class of the School for the New Generation Leader 2 weekends ago. And we had 3 days with this extraordinary group of leaders and just went so deep. And after going through it myself and then taking a group of people to that depth that I got to go to and seeing them come out the other end transformed and yet still going, right? Like the school, our first semester, if you want to call it, is 6 weeks. We start with the weekend, we go for 6 weeks, and then we come back for a weekend in August. And it's just like it's incredible to see these people. And one of the things, so we were thinking about, okay, what do we want to share today? And self-esteem, we really think is it's the first childhood learning of 5 that we cover in the school and in the Releasing the Past curriculum. And self-esteem is just so critical. And I look at my own journey, and like, this was the thing, and this is the thing I think that affected the group the most. And so many of the people in the group and so many of these leaders are leading, but from like the back of the room. It's like you think of like the audio guy and you know, the tech people in the back, and then there's the person who's on the spotlight, you know, on the stage. And that's like, how do you go from being in the back of the room to the front? And that was my journey personally, with Tribal Truth. Of like, I was facilitating, I was leading from the back and kind of pushing everyone else onto the stage because I was so afraid of being seen. And I really didn't have strong self-esteem. I looked very confident on the outside. Everyone would say, Tanya, you don't struggle with self-esteem, right? But I was really struggling with my self-esteem, and that's what we uncovered and what we really want to talk about today. What's amazing for me to just kind of reflect on my own journey is, number one, what it took in terms of transforming my own self-esteem and stepping into the spotlight to not only publish my book and put it out there. You know, so many people say that they're writing a book, but how many people actually go ahead and publish it and print it and then promote it the way that I did to have it become an Amazon bestseller? And just I'm constantly getting emails and texts and Facebook messages saying how much my book is impacting them. And that's because I stepped out of the shadow and into the spotlight. And then the second thing was this past weekend, getting on stage for a theater performance. And I'm not an actress, and creating a monologue based on my story and delivering that in total raw emotion, getting loud. I was yelling, I was crying, and it really took something. And so that's what really inspired today and what we're talking about in terms of self-esteem. Or what are some of those things that are holding you back? What is that thing that is having you want to stay in the shadow and is really having you feel resistant to moving into the spotlight? That's what we want to cover today.
And that shadow is a shadow that gets cast in many areas of our life. Tanya's talked about some career and some ability to be creative, the performance that she's doing, but certainly that shadow gets cast in terms of relationships, social relationships, intimate relationships, family relationships. It gets cast in the ability to take care of ourselves, to have these ideas of how we want to be healthy and how we want to be fit, and yet they don't really manifest. We really stay back in the shadow, so to speak. It gets done with career and money and finances and spirituality, really giving in to these principles that we so hold so highly, and yet not feeling that secure and not feeling that trusting and not feeling that deserving or worthy or whatever it is. It really is a self-esteem issue in every one of these categories. So I grew up in the South in New Orleans, and there was a saying that used to make me giggle, but it was one of those, you know, clever Southern sayings. It's a poor dog that don't wag its own tail. So it was like, if you can't feel good about yourself, it's going to be hard to really manifest anything of genuine fulfillment and substance and what could be called success.
So let's dive in, yeah?
Let's dive in. There we go. Okay. Self-esteem is basically the idea of really that we know who we are and that we love that image that we have of ourselves and that we feel secure within that. And that security is one of the need for that security, and the quality of that security is one for depth. It's something that needs to be there, period, unshakable like a foundation, so that if the wind blows, if the earth shakes, if the storm comes in, self-esteem's still there. The base, the foundation is intact. And for most of us, this unquestionably or undoubtedly, from the understanding of childhood development, is simply a reflection of the process of childhood learning. What did we learn about ourselves? One of the three critical learnings in childhood. Who am I? Who are you? And what is this world we live in? So in childhood, just like the Buddha said, you have to answer these questions. Who am I? One of the famous Buddhic questions. And in childhood, we don't have logic. We don't have the ability to, to go on the internet and start reading articles and be inspired and like picking up a book by Tanya or doing workshops or taking a class. We don't have that capability. Logic doesn't work. We can't process data. What do? We simply absorb and assimilate in what's called environmental learning, that which is going on around us, and of course in childhood, primarily from our two beloveds, mom and dad. These are the natural biological teachers of the lessons in childhood. And of course, always the first lesson and the key lesson in every childhood developmental need list, the number one need to be loved. So do we get that? The interesting thing that we run across all the time, as you well know, is that people will often say about their childhood, they'll say, I know I was loved, and they have this, I know I was loved.
No, logically.
So then they'll say, well, okay, tell me about that. And then they say, well, my mom took care of us, and she cooked, and she, helped us with clothes and getting dressed, and she brushed my hair, and she helped bathe me and teach me how to, cut my fingernails, and she took me to my games or to school, and my dad worked hard, and so therefore I was loved. Well, that's a possibility, but it's not what happens in childhood development that teaches a child that they're loved, because all of that you have to figure out later with logic. Okay, they did this, they did that, they did this, therefore it means that they love me. That's very logical, deductive logic. Childhood and the core developmental time, which, by the way, is, as we know, before 5 years old. Before 5 years old, without any logic, 80%. 80%, huge number, 80% of everything a human being learns is learned before the age or up to the age of 5. Now, that's enormous. And that learning isn't like we talked about. It's not with the mind. It's not with logic. It's just imprints. It's imprints. So I have a young son. I have a 7-year-old, and when he was in preschool, every year they had a recipe book that they made with the little drawings in it and everything, and the recipes were from the kids. And so you can imagine, they're watching their mom, or they're helping their mom, or they're being a mom's little helper, right? And then they're learning how to make things. And as they describe it to the teachers, it's just a complete comedy routine as you read it as an adult. And you see that they don't understand, but they just absorb, right? And this is a humorous example, but of course, all of childhood learning and early childhood is that absorption quality. So what are you doing? Put that down. What do you think you are? That's not for you. So when our parents are being frustrated, or they're doing what they think works for us, or they're trying to set what they consider limits or boundaries, or create their discipline in childhood, all of these things really are giving us indications of self-esteem. Am I a good person? Am I a bad person? Am I lovable? Am I unlovable? Do I deserve to be loved? Am I worthy of love? Is there time for me? Or others more important? Or other things more important than me? Even in the innocence of a parent having to go to work, still the child has no idea about work. It doesn't understand money and bills and resources and finances. What it does understand clearly, if it's 1-year-old, 2-year-old, 3-year-old, mommy's gone, daddy's gone, whoever it is, and maybe they're left at a preschool. Maybe they're left with the care of a nanny or something. So basically, again, this is in psychology abandonment. We understand it as adults. We can understand, well, your mom had to go work, your dad had to go work, and they love you, and they'll be back. But childhood isn't like that. Childhood doesn't have that capability to understand. So the wounds of childhood really start with self-esteem. And at that point, from there, um, it creates like a cloud over us that creates doubt, creates fear, creates anxiety and worry. So if I was, uh, let's say, in a situation where I'm gonna, you'd be the woman I want to ask out on a date. You know, oh my gosh, this is an incredible woman, and she's an author, and she does all this wonderful stuff, and she's new age and transformative, and it's like, oh my, she's beautiful, and and da 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 da. And so my self-esteem is like, well, I, I don't have much that I've done, and I don't know if she's gonna respect who I am, and I don't have much of a resume, and oh, I like to, whatever, maybe I like to smoke a little weed or just lay back or, go surf or whatever, dude. So it's like, how will she ever want to go out with me? So my self-esteem is insecure. So when I go to try and relate to her, that's the energy that she's going to undoubtedly pick up on. Hi, I'm Barry. I, uh, it's like, jeez, everything is tentative and hesitant, or I can, I can show her low self-esteem, or I can show her another coping strategy, which is uh, grandiose. I can try and build myself up to, to what I'm not. So it's phony. It's phony. It's a false front. Oh, hi there. I'm Barry. Oh, I've been waiting to meet you. You know, you're really beautiful, just like everyone told me.
Or some like cheesy pickup line.
Yeah, yeah. And so it's like I don't come across. I don't come across because it's not me. It's an act. It's a facade.
Yeah.
So these are different ways that, of course, we learn what could be called coping strategies or defense mechanisms or all those psychological kind of categories. But realistically, it's extremely self-sabotaging, and we end up with almost the guarantee for the consequence that we have anticipated would happen. And it's called the self-fulfilling prophecy. I'm not good enough for you. You don't really want to be with me. You're not going to find me that interesting or attractive. So the message that I get back, because I don't think I'm interesting and attractive, and I'm not putting out, um, a security, a trust, a quality that, like, for her as a woman, she's attracted to. She's not attracted to a man that's not going to be a man. She wants to have someone that's secure, wants to have someone that'll be there for her, that she can trust, that feels this idea of stable and knows himself, and she doesn't want to take care of a boy, she doesn't want to take care of a baby, she doesn't want to have a relationship where she has to be the mother, she wants to be the woman, right? So it'll be like, well, I mean, she'll do whatever it does to prove to me, she's not going to be interested. Or if she is, it comes from a place where she's just, okay, I've heard about you, and so let's give it a try. And it's like, that didn't feel good. So I don't get back what I'm looking for because I'm not putting out what she wants. She just wants to find somebody who's genuine and real, and you can trust in that and know who they are, without having to go through all these coping strategies and things. And this, of course, this is across the board. This isn't just in relationships. This isn't everything. And all the work that we do, how we take care of ourselves. I'm not going to go take care of myself if I don't think I'm worthy of it. I'm not going to eat good. Oh, what the hell? It doesn't matter. Let's eat this and let's eat that. And, a few more beers and let's, just I'm rushed for time. Let's a Jack in the Box. Blah 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 blah. Overeat, undereat, whatever. Because there's no self-love, no respect. Self-love brings about respect. Respect means self-care. Self-care means that we get our needs met, and then it's a productive cycle.
Yeah, and what I think one piece that you were just speaking to around like being congruent, and being real. And I think that's one big thing that we're working with leaders around, and
Hmm.
what you, if you're wanting to be in the spotlight, is how many times we are afraid to be in the spotlight because we feel like a fraud. And that's the self-esteem. That's what's underneath, is like, I have to act, and especially with social media these days, and especially in our industry, of like, put on the big face, like put on the I make six figures or whatever that is, but like, are you feeling the congruency with everyone who's projecting themselves that way, right? And that's what we're talking about, is really being the real deal, being congruent, and having that self-esteem really match what you're putting out there in the world.
There's a saying that uh, I don't own my schools anymore. I've given them up. But there was a saying we used to use, actually two sayings. One was, you can't give what you haven't got. So when you're incongruent, you're trying to present a delusion to someone, that you're more than you actually are, that there's something that I'm going to do a song and a dance and try and prove to you, but it's just not there. And then the other one was that if you do want to be someone that's really there, heal thyself. You've got to clear it out of yourself so that you can be real, so that you can release what's in the way, own what you really want, and then have that be who you are.
And that's where I was.
Yeah.
I mean, a huge part was heal or hear yourself. And here I am, like, leading women and leading all these groups, and I just constantly, it was like I didn't want to go in the spotlight because I felt like a fraud, and I hadn't had done the deep work on myself yet. And that was that missing piece, is I had to go and do that work within myself. And I wanted to go deeper, I just didn't have access to it until I did this work, which is so amazing. One of the key pieces that I want to have us go into a little bit, and you talked about at the beginning, and then this will be the you know final piece here, um, is around, for me it was with my father, and that idea of when we're children and our parents aren't around, and how they're showing love, right? My mom cooked for me, my mom cleaned for me, these things. Dad provided for me. Dad made money, therefore I'm loved by dad. And so this was the huge one for me, and I see so many women. This is actually a huge part of what my performance was on Saturday night, was this entanglement between money and love, and where I was not fully owning my worth and being able to charge, because of this whole convoluted mess of where I didn't quite know if I was worthy of receiving love, because I didn't get dad's emotional love, I got dad's love through money. And so I'd love for you to touch on this, because I think this is a huge piece that I'm seeing over and over and over again for so many women, especially women entrepreneurs out there, who are struggling to make a living, because it's just like underneath is just they're sabotaging from this specific thing.
Yeah. This is one of the categories of not having self-esteem. This is one of the dysfunctional categories of self-esteem. It's a very interesting category. It's called self-esteem through others. Self-esteem through others can mean like, well, I'm married to Tanya. I'm not. Let's say I'm married to Tanya, and Tanya is this wonderful, incredible leader, and everybody knows Tanya. So because I'm married to Tanya, I'm a good person, right? I get my self-esteem through her. Let's say we split up. Oh, I'm in hell. Follow? Or let's say I have dogs, and I'm a dog shows. I show my pedigree dog, and my dog's the winner. So, oh, here I am. It's Barry Green, the owner of the King, the best dog in the show, whatever. Self-esteem through others, whatever the others is. So money is self-esteem through others. Fame is self-esteem through others. Physical capability is, I'm a jock, I'm an athlete, look at me, I won this, I did that. Self-esteem through capability, athletic capability. All of these are self-esteem through others. In Tanya, the amazing part of what happens is because childhood learning is, for a human, our only learning. We're the only animal on the planet without any inborn knowledge. We have nothing we come instinctively knowing. That's why we're helpless as a baby. And we take so long compared to the animals to learn and to develop. So what happens is, in our childhood learning, it's called archetypal, meaning whatever we get, no matter what it is, good, bad, or ugly, whatever it is, it's the truth as far as we know it, right? So it's said that mother represents the archetypal teacher of how to get your needs met. She represents like Mother Earth, resources, the food, the things we need to live on this planet. And father is the archetypal teacher of love / relationships. So whatever mother is doing or not doing, that's how we learn to meet our needs. What she tells us doesn't tell us. Whatever father's doing, not doing, saying, not saying, no matter what it is, it equals love. Right? So if our father loves us by, oh, honey, here, I bought you this. Oh, honey, here, you want this doll? Oh, yes, or, oh, it's time for you to have a car. Let's go shopping. Oh, Dad, I love you so much, and I love you too. Well, all of that is making the equation money equals love. Of course, if the dad doesn't give you what you want, and as a child that's pretty unlimited, then the child equates that as meaning Dad's not giving me something that I want, buying me something, so therefore I'm not lovable and I'm not worthy of love, or else he would have given it to me. So this connection between self-worth, money, and love becomes a complete delusional knot. And of course, for dads and their daughters, we as men are not programmed to be that kind of a sensitive, emotional, what's called emotional intelligence. Our IQ, emotional intelligence, is for most men sort of down there, because it's not how we operate. It's not how our physiology operates. Our physiology operates with planning, organizing, structuring, reaching goals, overcoming obstacles. Emotions for a man are not that functional, and it's not going to gender trust from other men. And it's not going to work in the world that we know as men. So, of course, trying to come home to a little girl in those early formative years, and a little boy too, who's just nothing but emotions, is a huge challenge for so many fathers. And one of the easy ways to get through that challenge is, look what I bought you. He's like, oh, thank you, Dad. I love you so much. I love you so much. Now we have a bond of love that's all about money. And, of course, performance. Because if you're not getting something, you obviously are not lovable. You're not doing the right thing, da-da-da-da. So this all turns around in adult life from that underlying level to be questioning, am I doing a good enough job to merit this amount of money?
Yeah.
And those underlying doubts and fears that would have gone in childhood learning creep in to say, well, I'll just charge this. And I know I'm worth that, right? So I'm safe and secure there.
Yep.
And it really is not about the money, it's about the self-esteem. It all comes back down to that. So, of course, this is just one of the pieces of work that go with releasing the past. We actually cover 5 classical childhood developmental patterns, and we look at about 1,000 dysfunctional childhood learning beliefs that go within those 5 patterns: self-esteem, accountability, responsibility, limits and boundaries, expressing needs and wants appropriately. This is all part of the work. We do that for both mother, what we got from mother in those 5 categories, and then we switch and we do it for father. And then we look at all the miscellaneous and extraneous learning that would have happened with others as well.
Yeah, it's the most comprehensive work out there. And like Barry said, it's like we're focusing on that, moving into the spotlight and really stepping into your purpose. Because that's my path, that's your path, and that's, I think, such a key piece is I want to be making sure that I do meaningful, fulfilling work in the world. And that's probably what has had you attracted to watch us today and to participate, is we want to know that our mark matters, that we matter. And yet it's so much deeper. It's like all of this is like a network of roots underneath the surface that you can't see. And so what we're helping you do is identify that whole root system and then yank the whole thing out.
Yeah.
It's
weeds, not just roots, but weeds.
Weeds, ugly weeds. And then plants
weeds.
the nice banana tree and the mango tree and the peach tree and the flowers, and and then really creating what you want, to be able to live your life by design. I mean, that's what it's all about, is having that freedom. So,
and Peru is the place we're going to do that for our next training.
So I had taken a group of women down to Peru in January. And it was such a phenomenal experience. For me personally, I was actually in completion of the mother archetype work with Barry at that time. And going down to Peru was absolutely phenomenal, because first of all, we're in the Sacred Valley, and if you know anything about Peru, this is right down the street from Machu Picchu. You're at 8,000 feet, and you're surrounded by this bowl of mountains that are at like 13,000 feet. It is one of the most spectacular places that I've ever been to. And to feel held by Mother Earth while I was completing the mother archetype and going through this, it was kind of like the soothing balm after having the surgical operation. It was so spectacular. And then doing the medicine work, the medicine journeys of ayahuasca, allowed me to go so much deeper with this process. Just blew my mind. And having that group of people, the women just got so much value from going and spending those 10 days in Peru. And so I invited Barry to come down there for our next retreat, to bring this work, because if you're going to do this work, for me it took a very long time because I did it by myself and I didn't do it with a group. And it took me a long time to get started. Like, it was so difficult for me to get and do the work. And here you actually have a container, a safe container to do the work in community, to have that support. I think that's why the School for the New Generation Leader is just such a success, is these people were so committed to themselves and to supporting one another. And so to do this in Peru, I mean, it's like, this place is, people are being called to go to Peru for a reason. The energy there is just so spectacular. There's so much, there's just so much healing that land offers. And through this process, you get to connect deeper with the earth and with life. And so it's just such an amazing place to do it.
Yeah. The whole essence of our childhood development is about the fact of who we are. And we, no matter how we look at it and try and frame it from our mental mind, you know, I'm a smart person, I have a PhD, I have this, I have that, I do this work. The reality is, I'm a human. And that human has certain basic qualities that are natural. And when we lose that, we lose ourselves. And going back to a place like Peru, where you are just surrounded with the majesty and the glory and the hand of God, so to speak, everywhere. Because the training it's not about trying to have you have a spiritual practice, trying to give you one, but helping you find that truth inside, that truth that could be called divine, God, whatever, higher power, whatever it is, and have complete trust in that, and have that be the connection that fuels your entire life, that gets you through the times that are difficult, that inspires you, that lights the fire inside. All of these great traditions talk about it in every possible way, to know who you are, to thine own self be true, and to see that in others, to see that in all of life, to live a life like that. This is the life that makes what we do meaningful, makes who we are meaningful to us, and makes relationships meaningful, and makes the opportunity to parent be truly a different process. So Peru is going to be our whole package. We will have the entire training be contained in Peru, and what Tanya was talking about, there'll be the opportunity to work with a shaman, to do the medicine work.
It's optional.
And it's optional. If that's something that doesn't work for you, or you're not interested, not a problem at all. So obviously, your needs are respected highly and considered to be um, very significant and absolutely necessary. So um, the other thing about Peru that's wonderful is that we can offer you this because of the cost of being in Peru. I mean, it's not that for what we do there and what we get there, we would have to be thousands of dollars more here in the country. So even though the cost to get there is maybe a little higher, roughly like to Hawaii.
About $1,000.
Yeah, still the what we can offer this at is extremely significant. If you're going to do this kind of depth of work for yourself, even with the airfare, the room, lodging, the cost of the training, and the airfare, you almost undoubtedly spend more than that on yourself doing this one-on-one with someone. And like Tanya said,
Yeah.
this is a container. It's completely structured. You don't have to be concerned about putting it off or having to deal with issues or not getting homework done or staying on track. It's like, okay, here we are, and here's what we're going to do. So it's extremely supportive, and the group process is phenomenal. And of course, what happens with this one is, it's the school for the new generational leader. We're attracting phenomenal people, and the training is open to anyone. Certainly, we welcome everyone, and we especially welcome leaders because this is a need. There's no convincing anyone that the planet's out of balance. The ecology is out of balance. The human relationships, the devastation of still having genocide and prostitution and what's it called when you steal away the girls, the sex trafficking, human trafficking. Devastating, and where we are is in our technology to have these atrocities so out of balance.
And that's one reason why Peru is calling. You look at an organization like the Pachamama Alliance that's trying to draw from the ancient wisdom of the Amazon with modern culture, and how do we bring those together and create that balance, because the world is out of balance. And this is why I think, number one, ayahuasca is so popular these days. Why people are being drawn to the rainforest and being drawn to places like Peru to soak up and to reconnect with that ancient wisdom. There's no coincidence that we're going down there. There's no coincidence that you probably have been thinking about Peru yourself. There's no coincidence why there's so many shamans coming to the U.S. This work is so needed right now for the healing of our planet. So we're really honored to have you. If you're interested, you could go to tribal-truth.com/retreats, and you could fill out an application, or you could just email us if you want to have a conversation, info@tribal-truth.com.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to add?
And I know I speak for both of us. We'd be utterly delighted to talk to you in person. We're available. We'd love to support you in any way that we can. Is really what it is. The training in Peru it's designed to be a one-time event in your life. It's designed to go to the depths of the bottom, the very bottom of the core of where the delusion, the dysfunction, all of it resides. It's classically agreed upon in both Western psychology and the ancient traditions that this deep core childhood information is what needs to be eliminated. That's the samskaras in yoga, the maya, the admonitions, the subconscious, the delusion. It's said to be at least, scientific research says it's at least 75% negative, and that's at least. So that's too much. So this is an opportunity to do it once for yourself, have it be done, move on with your life, possibly with a sense of yourself, maybe for the first time, having that sense of this is who I really am. So let us know. We'd love to support you and help you. And thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, and we'll see you next time.
You bet.